Batman Arkham Origins! You're probably wondering why I'm doing a review instead of a full-on playthrough. Well, you see, the game has a tendency to the game kinda has a few problems. The game kinda has a few technical problems. Batman Arkham Origins is the latest in the Batman Arkham series, intended to show the build-up to the events of Arkham Asylum. You play as a younger, less refined Batman, so it follows that a younger, less refined developer takes the reins. Say hello to WB Games Montreal. Yeah, the same studio that brought us Arkham City Armored Edition, also known as, oh boy, I sure hope you didn't forget to get all the Harley balloons and Harley Quinn's revenge. Whoops! Yes, the same company that doesn't know how to send out an internet patch and insisted on you, yes you, sending in your broken copy of the game to get it fixed have gotten another shot at a Batman game. This one with an original direction and story as opposed to a port, so maybe we just had some growing pains porting a game to the Wii U that wasn't designed specifically for the system. Now that the new game is, in fact, original, along with versions on the 360, PS3, and PC, perhaps W Games Montreal can prove themselves once and for all. Well, let's at least look at the story. It's Christmas Eve, and Roman Sionis, aka the Black Mask, wants the Batman dead. Bats has only been on operation for 2 years, so the GCPD is still corrupt, doesn't like him, and Gordon considers him a criminal in between the other cops trying to get rid of Gordon himself. To this end, Sionis has put a $50 million bounty on the Bat's head, and hired 8 assassins to take him down on Christmas Eve. So that's why Carol of the Bells is in the main theme of the game. You're given twice the amount of city to run around in this time, the future side of Arkham City on the north end of an extremely long bridge, and the new bit of the game on the other end of the bridge. Because of this huge-ass bridge, it definitely feels like the south end of Gotham was just tacked onto whatever they had from the first game, and less like an organic extension of Arkham City's world. This might have been done for gameplay reasons, though, since the game runs off of City's engine, with a few slight modifications, so loading a world twice as big that readily may have been a bit of an insurmountable task, hence the distinct separation of zones. You'll still hit some loading screens while flying around Gotham, though, so it's not perfect, and I mentioned before that the game has a tendency to freak. As far as gameplay goes, it's standard Arkham fare. You got your punchy bits, your stealthy bits, your explorer bits, with all the hidden goodies you could hope to find. Oh, I see they got tired of everyone calling it Detective Vision instead of Detective Mode and just said, well, fine, there you go! Oh, it didn't work! One cool new feature is the expansion of the CSI bits from the first 2 games, where you now reconstruct the crime in detail and replay it forwards and backwards to find new clues and discover just how things went down. Even though it seems a little too omniscient in nature, it's very cool and should have been used a little bit more. Like the CSI moments in the previous game, there's just not a whole lot of them in this game. Other things, like being able to stop crimes in progress, help make the world feel populated, but it still ends up feeling emptier than the previous games. There's less collectibles, for instance, and they're not as remarkable as the previous game, so finding them is a bit more of a challenge. The fast travel system helps expedite travel, but unlocking the system involves solving a series of mini-puzzles for each one. Some of the puzzles cannot be solved until late in the game, one such district being near completion story-wise. The gadgets are pretty much the same as in City and Asylum, with some noticeable absences. The line launcher is not around, for example, though you do get something of a predecessor in the remote claw, which is also far more versatile. There's also the disruptor in a more primitive form, and a few other upgrades I need to spoil for you. There's the return of the multi-batarang, though, for those of you who loved its many uses in stealth sections. Combat's also been made more complex, with more enemy types like martial artists that can counter you and have moves with more complex counters than normal, and some moves getting a redesign. Hard mode also once again removes counter indicators like in the first game, but the massive amount of variables in combat can be overwhelming. While City had a veritable amount of strategy to its combat, requiring any number of techniques at any given time, Origins oversaturates, while also oversimplifying with the return of BAT mode from Armor Edition. Except it's called something else and you unlock it halfway through the game. Choosing not to use it can lead to some fights becoming overwhelming, as you have armored enemies, enemies with stun batons, martial artists, unblockable enemies, gun-throwing weapons, and enforcers all in the same room as you, yes, you. And how about that stealth? Well, it sure seems like the enemies are quite a bit dumber this time around, doesn't it? The areas you stealth in are much more complex in design than the first couple games, which ends up making them feel very cluttered and it's a bit more difficult to work around in them. Once again, your inverted takedowns are the safest, if not quietest, way to eliminate your enemies. And the remote claw adds a few new tricks to your disposal, including long-distance inverted takedowns. Mastering these sections, however, definitely feels very satisfying. The upgrade system gets a massive overhaul around, with everything being on a tech tree. While there were limited tech trees in the first 2 games, they made logical sense. You couldn't get Armor Upgrade D without getting Armor Upgrades A, B, and C beforehand, and you couldn't get Batarang Upgrade Y without Batarang Upgrade X. In this game, you can't get special combat moves without upgrading your bulletproof armor for some reason. This removes a lot of the strategy in picking and choosing your upgrades in the first couple games. You could upgrade your offensive or your defensive upgrades based on what you needed or preferred. In this, you're forced into picking this upgrade because you need it to get the one you want. This also locks off sections of each tree when you don't have the requisite gadgets. Oh, but some of the upgrades you get merely by completing side missions. And these are the better upgrades, like critical strikes and the special combo disarm and disable, which you need to finish achievements on another tree, the achievement trees, which don't start counting for your achievements until you get to that part of the tree. So even if you completed the requirements for achievement 10 already, you don't get it until you reach achievement 10 in the tree and then do it again. Oh, and by the way, you need to do these in order to get upgrades like the Sonic Batarang, and it's just irritating. Why can't you just... Hey look, snow physics. Snow physics. Snow physics, this game is pretty. One thing that expedites getting through all the tech trees is encounter rankings. Every completed encounter is ranked both on difficulty and your ability in completing it. Do terribly and you only get experience points based on the defeated. Do extremely well and you can potentially double that amount. You'll even get experience points for playing through the challenge mode, speeding up the leveling process even more. You even get experience points for talking to Alfred! What? If you liked the previous Arkham games, then this will be no surprise to you. The game's still pretty good, even through all the technical problems, far more claustrophobic environments, and clumsier design. Seriously, how come the stealth achievement tree only works in pre-scripted predator rooms and the little mini sections so you can unlock them by doing stealth on rooftops? I'm really dumb and worthy, so hark! But it has its shortcomings. It feels very derivative, and New Game Plus doesn't let you keep all your gadgets. I realize those same gadgets could skip massive parts of the game, but Arkham City worked around that issue just fine. The Wii U version also lacks features beyond the real-time map, like the sonar and detonating charges with the touchscreen, which were honestly pretty handy. And because of the game's frequent freezing issues, I am the night mode, where you only get one life and no saves, seems like tempting fate, honestly. Hopefully, in the future, this game will receive a patch fixing glitches, stopping the crashes, and fine-tuning everything. There is a good game here, one that could stand proudly with the other Arkham titles, had they just tested it a little bit more, and put a little bit more care into it. It's still above and beyond most other titles, though. It's fun, which is enough for me, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. Must have been my imagination. Huh? Anybody over there?
You seriously have no idea how hard that was to accomplish.